Look at those bubblegum welds. That'll never work. That looks like crap. Is that exhaust pipe? That's mild steel? Couldn't you afford to have somebody do it better? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. We got a bunch of people over here today, and there's a pig cooker. Harper decided to cook a pig for our buddy Brian. Brian's birthday is today, so wish him happy birthday. He's getting on up there. He can officially get his senior citizens discount now. So yeah, happy birthday, Brian. We love you, buddy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brian. Happy birthday to you. Woohoo! Welcome to the Senior Citizens Club. I'm coming. I'll be there soon. Keith is there. You'll be there in a month. Look, that's awesome. I want my discount. So this is the turbo kit unwrapped, all mild steel. At some point we had 3-inch exhaust, and then I dropped it down to 2.5. Now this thing is ugly. This is why we wrap turbo kits. So if you see people that wrap turbo kits, it's not always about keeping the heat in. Sometimes it's about hiding the turbo kit, and that is what mine is. So we just put the front end on it, and this is not really going to work the way this is. It's just too high, so we're going to have to drop the turbo down. I've been kind of trying to debate on if I was going to turn this thing sideways or just drop it. I think I'm going to just drop it. It needs to basically, this needs to come down to this bar, and so it's going to be pretty easy. You can see this is my kit. I mean, it's all MIG welded together, not a big deal. What I'll do is I'll cut it here and then cut it right here, and I've got some basically 2.5-inch connectors, and you see I've used one in the past here, so we'll just stick it on right there and it should slide right in, and we'll drop the kit, and then we'll tack weld it back together and then fully weld it back together, and then it'll be lowered. Now we will have to play with our oil drain. So the oil drain is here. You see it's got this extension on it. So we're gonna have to change that, cut the extension off, weld that back up there, just so that it gets the right angle. So we got the turbo kit modified. This is my turbo kit undressed. Boy, it sure is ugly. This has got to be the world's, it's probably the world's. It's the world's ugliest hot side. Gotta be. It's got to be the ugliest one that's at least fast. And the car is fast. Well, the other car was fast. I don't know if this one's gonna be fast or not. But we just solidified, I think, what we're gonna do. That turbo placement with it there. We can go down and under this pipe, and then up, and then 90 degree. And this front end is super floppy. So we're scared if we cut too much out of it, then it's not going to hold together for us. And so we're right here on our bar, so we'll put a mount. I think Brian said put a mount over here and a mount over here, and then those down along the sides, and we should be good to go. So that's it. So that is what we got done. I've got to get a couple fittings for my drain line. We're going to change the routing of that and make it so it's a little bit better. That hole over there that you see, the big hole, that's where at one point I had a 60mm wastegate. It did not control boost very good over there, so I moved it and just kept on keeping on. The other thing I done is I went ahead and, it's gonna be hard to see, but the other wastegate, this wastegate was pointing down. And so it was kind of below the front end. So now you can see, you gotta get on down there to be able to see it. So it looks like it's not gonna drag. If the front end drags and clears, or the front end clears the trailer, then we know it's not gonna rip the wastegate off, because actually we've had that almost happen before. We got our fuel filter in. We went ahead and went with a 75 micron this time. I thought this one was 100, but then looking at it and looking at the colors, it's either a 40 or a 10. But you can see the difference in the mesh size. So, you know, having a tight mesh is good, but at the same time, it's gonna be more restrictive, so it's gonna catch a lot more junk. Wow, there's a lot of junk. We need to do a better job filtering the fuel too, and that'll help some as well. And doing some maintenance, cleaning this thing out on a more regular basis. But those precision injectors I have real big holes. So honestly, I probably don't even need a fuel filter. That stuff would go right through the motor and go right through the injector and probably be fine. Maybe or just not do it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna put that in there. So we'll put that in, do a little bit more fuel system maintenance, and then hopefully we'll be good to go. The fuel flow always goes on the outside of the filter, and then it comes out in the middle. And so that's the reason they have this in and out. And it makes sense if you think about it. I've seen people flow this the wrong way, and if you did it the wrong way, then the surface area is different on the inside versus the outside. All right, guys, so we're making this hose, and I showed this before on a couple other videos. Then you just twist it in. The other thing I do is I lubricate the threads real good. I usually just use motor oil, and then I'll stick it down in there very carefully, and then once I start tightening it, it should go pretty smooth and pull in fine. One thing you want to be careful of, make sure I always put my finger right here on the metal, on the braided line, and then that way when you're tightening this down, I've only had it happen a few times, but I have had sometimes if it's not lubricated good enough or if this gets bound in the hose, it'll start pushing this out. And then when it gets all the way in there, if you're not careful, if you weren't paying attention to this area, it might have slid out and have a very small area where it's actually crimped down at, and that would be a problem once it got any pressure. So just be careful when you're tightening it down, put pressure on the stainless steel line, and that way if it does start moving it, you can feel it. Okay, so we got one task partially accomplished. So I got the filter back in here, got this line made up here, but of course that would not fit down here. And so there probably is enough room for me to actually make this work, to make this bend, but it would be better if I had a 90 degree here, and then that line will be pretty short. So that's what I'm gonna end up doing. So I'm gonna just give me another 90 degree vibrant fitting, and then we'll be good with the fuel line. I did have to cock the fuel pump to make it fit better. I kind of like this better anyway. The way this thing was before is the line was coming up right through that small area, so I couldn't ever really get to it. It's very difficult to get to, and you know, I had to basically, if I wanted to take that line off, I had to take the whole fuel pump off. So this is going to work a little bit better anyway. Now you can see though, with that angle, now the inlet is over here on this side. So instead of having a 90 on that feed, I'm gonna probably go ahead and just get, a 120 on that one, because the 90 is gonna be a little bit too much of an angle. Fuel cell's still gonna be over here on this side. Unless we wanted to move the fuel cell over here. If we move the fuel cell over here to this side, then it would actually be kind of a straight shot over there. So that's something to think about. But I don't know if I want to do that, because if I do the fuel cell over here, now the exhaust pipe's gonna have to go up through the hood or out to the right or straight down. And I don't want the fumes over on my side because methanol is kind of rough. Okay, so the fuel filter stuff is almost done. I think the easiest thing is just get the 120 fitting, mount the fuel cell back over here. Now we're on to my favorite thing. we're going to try to make these ugly headers. We're going to wrap them up. And, you know, I could have, if I had more time. I'm not a fabricator, so everything takes me a long time to do very simple stuff. And so one of the things that would have been very simple is to flip this housing upside down. I know where I wanted the turbo about. So flip it over, put the inlet here, and then a very short pipe here, up and over. The pipe would have been short. That would have been super easy to do for a fabricator. For me, not really super easy to do. So I did what I thought was best. We made our turbo kit uglier, and it's going to work out fine. And now it is a little heavier, though. That is one of the things about doing it the other way. So maybe this season I'll be able to talk one of my fabricator buddies into actually redoing this and, you know, doing it. I mean, the headers are fine. Those are old eBay headers. But if we just flip the turbo around, then all we'd have to do is redo that. And then the cold side stuff might have to modify it a little bit, but that would be very minor for somebody that does this stuff professionally. But I'm on a short time span, so I'd rather redo it later the proper way. We just got to get this thing going because we have very, very, very short period of time before our first race. So now this is the stuff nightmares are made out of. We're going to be doing header wrap. This is just some old eBay header wrap. I got 50 foot of it. They come with these nice little wire ties. These things are pretty cool. All you do is wrap it around, stick it in. It's got a little ball in there, and then you just twist it kind of to tighten it up. So one of the things with header wrap is a pain in the butt, and it is very, very, very itchy. So I've got on long sleeves, which is good. I've also got gloves. That's going to help. The other thing that will help is if you soak this in water and get it pretty wet, the shards are a little bit less likely to go all over the place. All right, well, that worked out mostly. So these things are real easy to do. You just, these clamps, once you put them in there, you just take the needle nose and just curl them up and they get tight. I almost had enough to do the whole thing. It got really close. Brian's got some extra in there. I might wrap that piece down there just so it kind of covers up that weld a little bit. But otherwise, it's pretty good. When you're wrapping this stuff, there is two edges to this thing. You have an edge that is more tightly sewn than the other. So you always want to make sure that you're wrapping it so that the tightly sewn part is here. And, you know, they recommend like a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch overlap. Of course, sometimes that varies depending on where you're at. But now my turbo kit looks better. It does. Now I can tell somebody if they ask, which I would never lie to nobody anyway. I would say, yeah, that's a mild steel. You ought to see it under there. And I'll probably show them a picture. But I could say, nope, this is all stainless steel. Very high-end kit. Just that part down there is the mild steel. Just couple things. So not only TIG welding, probably the most insignificant part of my car. And every single time I have TIG welded it. This is the oil drain line. And this honestly, this piece right here come off of a transfer truck. It was an oil drain line that attached. I've had that thing on every turbo that I've had for the last probably 10 years. And so I just keep welding fittings on it. And so it was extended and I cut it off. And he said I TIG welded it earlier. So, I mean, that thing's pretty insignificant, but I TIG welded it. But I'm an idiot, man. This TIG rod, I stabbed myself every single time. So I was TIG welding, and then I went to lift my visor. And when I lifted my visor, this thing just was still in my hand, and it's like, it got me good. But, okay, we're making progress. Well, that gets my stamp of approval, guys. Doesn't take much to get it. This is my budget turbo kit. We modified it. The changes we made to the turbo kit shouldn't make any difference. It should be just as fast this year as it is next year, potentially faster. So we'll see how it goes. That's my budget redneck turbo kit, the ugliest one in the world, but maybe one of the fastest. Thanks for watching, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Stay tuned. Race day coming soon.